They also always see it in the peripheral vision, okay, which works more in ultraviolet. The peripheral vision creates more ultraviolet, and like people to see things.
I will do the best job.
And then the landlord in here said he came into the building and he didn't believe any of it. He said he would have none of that. So, everybody ignored it. He says, he turned around and the fire was burning in the winter. He said you could clearly see a man standing on the right hand side of the fireplace. And I asked him if I could do an investigation. He said no, because he didn't want us to get rid of it. Because if we don't get rid of it, what we'll do is document it and watch it and see it. None of that. But there you go. If you want to head up further up?
We're off again.
Another bit of history on this ghost box. To this channel here. If some people later on, once we've done the ghost tour, want to come back to this point and walk up, that's the graveyard at the far end. Okay? Something at the back of the court dragged, heard little girl voices. Okay? The reason for that is that apparently a young girl got killed in here, got murdered. And every now and again people have walked up and never see anything, they just get the clothes pulled and such like up towards it, you get a real feel of dread. Like, but it's okay, it's still on it's in red light now. Red light is normal light that we take photos with. Okay? Infrared is one side of the spectrum, ultraviolet is at the other side of the spectrum. But the red light spectrum is really, really small. That's what we see. We only see a very, very small spectrum of light. Although as peripheral vision sees more in ultraviolet. Okay, that's why people say, I saw something, but I only saw it out the corner of my eye. There you go, that's why. Okay, move on. Okay, here we go. Later on up there, I'll tell you about Blue John Cavern. We did a big investigation up there. As if people can hear me because it's windy here. It's really windy up there. It's really good. But that's when we get most activity up on the hill, when the wind really comes in. The Blue John Cavern shop is owned obviously by the people who own Blue John Cavern. The guy said that in the back, in the place where they shine stuff up and get stones ready for us and build all the jewellery and stuff, they've been having paranormal stuff going in there for a fair few years, things moving around. Get thrown around the room, and would we please go in and do an investigation? And I said, yeah, I will do, but I don't charge for investigations. He said, nobody does nothing for me for nothing, and wouldn't allow us to do it unless he paid me. But I won't take money for doing an investigation. So we're never going to do it. How ironic. So I think if we start taking money for it, for real investigation, for real research, it's all wrong. It all just becomes a bit bitter and twisted. So rather than do that, I just let him off with it. He'd already let us do Blue John Cavern. Now that was an amazing night. That was really good. I'll tell you, the time to take on the people who didn't know the road. But there, there's apparently a dark man that's still running through the back of the shop. And when people are in there doing what they're doing, they see a dark figure that things shoot around. Back in there, the reason that he wanted us to sort it out was because okay, nobody right on Saturday, go behind you actually. Okay. The Old Nag's Head. The wall of the Old Nag's Head goes into the graveyard. The story going into the graveyard. The story is that way years gone by, not to get to the bodies in the graveyard right over here. There's a wall at the back of the Old Nag's Head. okay, and they made a big tunnel that went into the graveyard, and they used to go in there and dig outwards and they used to rip the bodies out. And people, when they used to take the skulls and the bodies to the universities and stuff and sell them for research, they always used to ask them why they all got broken necks, and that's because they used to break into the side of the coffin, okay, can only be a rope, and then just yank the skeleton out through the side of the coffin. You know, this is very
You're not failed in the car!
What have we down here? Where's the light? What lights out here? Where's your seat? You want to come round here?
Go ahead.
Quite a prominent fan. Right, we're talking about haunted places. This is probably the third most haunted place in Britain, after Buxton and places like that. Okay, obviously York. This is probably that third. Gloucester's really bad. That house there, that's haunted. The house there, that's haunted. This one behind you, there's a face that stares through a window there, and things have been experienced and thrown around in this building here. The tree up here, there's a limb missing. If you look there up top, see it's fallen off. The limb that used to come out of there used to be the old hanging tree. And now the hanging tree, the hanging limb is actually broken down off the tree. That's gone. So make his way around. We're trying to get us out, so we'll keep after later. Right at the back, it's like the corner of a 50-pence piece. Years and years and years gone by, there was a lady, she lived with her son. And the lady, the chap and the lady were both retired, and when the old lady died, he would lose his money because he wouldn't get no money back in for the old lady. But what happened is the old lady died and he wasn't getting any more money anymore, so he thought to himself, well, what do I do? He stood there looking at this old lady, and he said, that's his mother obviously. He said, what do I do? He said, so he pushed the old lady in a chair back into the back room up there, and he bricked the door up. This went on for years and years, and he was still collecting this money, and eventually he got caught out because people who were seeing the old lady wanted to know where she was. So he got done for it because they couldn't find her. So he basically went to prison, one thing and another, and years went by. Okay, about 100 years later, some new people, some people have paid, I don't know who's paid. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Little slotting too. Okay, years and years later, a new family moved in, and they were doing some renovations, and they noticed that there was what looked like a window on the side of the house, which was now actually open if you want, but it was bricked up, but they couldn't get into that side of the building, so they had an architect come in and he looked down, and he found that there was an area with a door blocked up, so he knocked it through, and they found the skeleton of the old lady sat in the chair. She'd been there nearly 100 years.
Squidgy. Oh. Luke. Why does it smell like fish?
Oh, my
The building on the left hand side here used to be the doctors. It used to be like an infirmary building. The thing about that is that this bottom floor here used to be the morgue. It's where they used to cut bodies up and such like, and they didn't know about that. So when they bought it, they turned it into a youth hostel association building. People been stopping down there and eating the meals where the morgue used to be. That's wonderful. And then down here, at this end, this here, look, if you don't mind, there's a group of lads who were stopping in that room. They were stopping there for the night, and they said that they saw, while they were sat on the beds talking, a figure of a white woman come straight through the door at them, and it must have taken them 30 seconds to get out. They refused them to go back in again. There's also a man who's seen on the staircase, and somebody else, a white figure which is seen in one of the back rooms. And they're prolific. These are stories which are constantly recurrent. Like, do you know when you go into a youth hostel association building, you have to sign yourself in, and sometimes you can leave notes? The stories keep going in the book. And the thing is that the same stories are reiterated from and books before. So there's like stories which 1 year on a certain date will appear, and then the next year, in a completely different book, on the same date, the same story will reappear again, and there's no reference, which tells you that's a bit weird, isn't it? Scientists sometimes say, or psychical researchers sometimes say that it's brain frequency and our thought processes work on certain frequencies, and maybe at that time of year, for some reason, the same frequency is released inside that room, releasing the same thought process. So people aren't seeing a ghost, they're basically just experiencing the same thought process, which is making them feel as though they're experiencing the same thing. Okay? Exactly. So I mean, chances of that a little bit few and far between. This road down here, which goes down to the chip shop on the left hand side there, there's a white horse and cart that's been seen riding down there from this end through to the bottom end. To go all the way around, which we're not going to do, which we normally do in summer, you come to Peak Cavern. Peak Cavern used to have people living in there in little mud huts and such like. What we used to do, they're living there, and the people from the village used to live out here. Now this castle was built, okay, to protect the village, rather than a castle being built and the village being there in order to be able to serve the castle. Does that make sense to everybody? Normally you get a castle built as a defensive place, right, with a keep and such like, and then the village would be built around it, okay, in the safety of the castle. But in this case, because of the Blue John in the hill, what they did was they built the village, and because there's so much robbing going on and so much outlaw, because it's so far away from anywhere, obviously in the valleys, they built the castle on the hill to protect it, to ensure that all the Blue John and the money and everything here was safe from outlaws and such like. The old graves are on the right, the new graves are on the left. There's a white figure that's been seen in here, and also apparently a dark entity which is also seen here on the farm. And at the other end, a lot of grave robbery went off in here, but it's the other side of the church where they had the grave robbers coming through the pub. Turned it off.
I said when I start talking, you can't stop recording, you know.
I'm here.
Okay, so the old grave there over on your right, my left. The new ones are on the right hand side, your left, and then for the grave robbery was all over this place, and on the other side was where the signposting. And while he was digging the footings for the signpost, he came across something that rather shocked him. He made a finger. Okay, bony finger sticking out of the ground. So obviously, he phoned the police, but not before taking the finger, put it in his pocket. Right, so he's still got that finger. The police came across and they unearthed this and found hundreds of bodies. It turned out to be a mass burial site from the Black Death. So you're standing now on top of a mass burial site of hundreds of bodies, and they're only about 4 foot down. And people are coming in with the cars, driving in here to go and see Peak Cavern, and don't realise they're on top of a massive grave. So this has to be a graveyard. What we're going to be going next, I always like to pull people in here before we move on. We're going to another car park, which is at the bottom of Winnats Pass, and it is quite something significant. From there we're going to go, if you can't, some people aren't going to be able to get into the cave, okay, but some will. Come on, stragglers! Okay, the bottom of Winnats Pass. Has anybody heard the story about the young boy and girl who came from the Castle Hotel because they were absconding from the family because they wanted to be together? Right? They wanted to be together, so the parents wouldn't let them. So they ran away, because apparently either he or her was in money and the other one wasn't. Kind of which way around it was, all I know is that they weren't supposed to be together and they ran away. They got a little horse and a cart and off they went with all the worldly belongings. And they came through Castleton, parked up, right, so they could rest the horse and such like, stopped at the Castle Hotel for the night. Apparently on the same night they were stopping there, the parents found out where they were, so they came to get them. And they got word of this, so what they decided to do was to abscond, boom, straight up here. Now, while they were in the pub, they heard some of these 3 miners working for local miners. They found out, they heard what was being said, so they decided that they were going to go and rob them. They came up here, this young boy and girl, they came up. Right, okay. So we started coming up here. The robbers came out of them. Okay. They attacked them. They killed them both. Took all the stuff away, and then they hid the bodies. Now there's a big confrontation with people about where they put the bodies. Some people said they took them right up there on top of that mountain. Let's get this light round here and get a concept of how far that mountain is. Now if you, yeah, it's a good touch. If you think about going up there, yeah, you notice it's snowing this. Going up onto the top of the hill. That's snow. That's no, that's grass. Going up onto the top of the hill and dropping bodies in a cave up there, yeah, or taking it up Mam Tor, or just going over there and dropping it in a cave which is just over there. Which would you do? Exactly up here, and that's where we're going to be going. The last time I came up here, I came with a guy called John Conway. He's a world-renowned psychic medium. And when we stood here, he knew nothing about this cave, and he told me all of it. He said he could pick up on a small child. He says he also picked up on a chap that was trapped, and he could also hear a voice of children inside here, which is ironic considering the boy and girl apparently been dumped in here. And we've also picked up on little children's voices for EVPs in here, and nobody else has been in whatsoever. Like I say, if anybody wants to link, I'll let you link it over. It's a very, very controlled investigation that we did that night. Also, we've got those two bodies. Apparently there's been a lot of people accosted, let's say, inside this cave. You can imagine it's out of way. And the final story with this is that a chap once came caving in here, and when you go inside you'll see that there's a pile of stones, big rocks that go up, this big rock fall at the back of the cave, which some people will be climbing up onto. Okay? Down the back of there is a shaft, and further on from that is another shaft, which is now blocked in because the chap was caving, potholing, and he fell down forwards into the cave and he got jammed completely. They couldn't get him out. Alright, so eventually obviously he died. He was stuck upside down. They had to get a priest in as he was dying in order to be able to give him the last rites. Now because they couldn't cut the body out or something like that, they couldn't get him to get him, his body's still in there. So they concreted him into the back, so it's actually a tomb. So I have a bit of respect for this place because it's actually a grave. Okay, so what we're doing, anybody that can, it's really important, it's really good places. If you can get in, get in. It's not that hard, it's a bit of crawl, not crawl, but it's a bit of I can turn it off for now, just wait. Yep. Go on, you can. You're only going to stand on a stone. You can do it. I'll be in a minute, don't worry. Go on, you can do it. Excellent stuff. Go on, you're going in on that. Brilliant stuff.
Right, here we go. I'll sit down here.
Yeah, get the video. I can take a photo shot of it. Has it got a water lens?
Is what?
Have you got water lens?
No, it looks alright.
What's that one in front of you? Jenny, take another one.
Got that one? Hold me that.
You can hold that one.
I'll bring it back.
You're fine,
Do you want me to take another one from where Gareth is? Just of you, yeah?
No, everybody. With me.
Sorry.
You might have to back up a bit.
I can't. Oh. Right, you ready?
Ready, everybody?
Look at the camera if you can. Yeah, that's nice.
Hey!
Another one.
That's great.
Come on, man.
A
bit. That's it.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so this is the cave where I believe that the young boy and girl were dumped. Okay, there's also been a rape in here. I know some people might want to hear about that. There's been a rape in here. Okay, and also over there, if you look over to his back, way back there, it drops straight off. That's why I didn't want them going too far. It drops straight off down a passageway. And it continues a bit further.
Thank you.
It continues further and then it drops down again. Okay, and that's where it's concreted in. There's another entrance there, if you look down that way. So this passageway, when it goes up there, it goes right up to Blue John Cavern. It all links together.
No, turn that off then.
Oh, thank you.
This is a lot worse than we were retail.
Oh, no, no. Oh my God!
Why have you brought me up here?
Because it's supposed to be on. Keep going, don't stop! Well, a week's witness stayed nice.
Again, I'm like away. Things so far away. You think it's on the ground.
Yes, stop me blowing off that hill.
I can't. Get me back in that
Keep going.
Can't be on the elevator.
Hang on, it's coming down. Oh, it's pumpkin. It's got pumpkin. It's so freaking up. Yeah, they okay. Woo! Oh,